What you're looking at here is a spherical picture, a spherical image that was taken with Google's Spherical camera app on a regular Android phone. And I pulled it into Blender and textured it to a sphere, and now it is part of my Blend4Web HTML export ready for your website. And you can put objects in it and perceive a 3D effect in sort of a 3D space. Also, this is an interesting effect. This is just the default cube that has a slightly specular surface. And I'm not sure how well it's going to come across in the video, but I've aligned the light to roughly be positioned where the sun is in this picture. And it's got a nice reflection rolling across the surface of that cube as I go through the light, and it even matches up with that reflection on the water, which I thought was, I just kind of stumbled on that by accident. It puts your virtual object right into the scene with your photosphere. And what I'm going to show you how to do is go out and get your picture and put it into a Blender file and then export it in Blend4Web. So I'm out here on location at a wetland construction project I'm doing some work for, and they do a lot of photo documentation. So I'm going to show you how to use Google's camera app on your smartphone to get a spherical image. Okay, we're going to open our Google camera app, and we'll just pull out that menu from the side and choose the photosphere option. And all you have to do, you don't have to click any buttons or anything. We're just going to put that blue dot in the circle, and it goes ahead and does the rest. I try and move slow so it seems to get a clearer picture. And then we'll just go up and start the next level. And we're done, so we'll go ahead and hit the check mark. And then it takes a while for that image to process. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my home button. And if I pull down my notification bar there, you can see right there at the top it says processing photosphere. There, now that that's done, I'm going to pull this up in the Quick Pick image viewer that I use on here. Oh, there's one I did earlier. Oh, yeah, there's my son. You'll be happy to know. So that's what it looks like. It's a rectangular image. We're going to hit that icon in the middle. And now we can go ahead and pan by dragging through the picture. But if we want to, we can hit this icon here and it will pan as you move the camera. So isn't that an interesting view, because it sort of pans through the actual image while we're here right on site. Now, once you have your picture, it's going to look something like this. Let me pull that over here. So this is just a rectangular image. It's not spherical yet because it hasn't been wrapped around a globe. But let's look at the properties of that and get an idea of what our file size is. So it's about 4.7 megabytes, and there's the pixel size on that. And it might be worth changing that to make it more optimal, but we're going to leave it like it is for now. I have an additional picture here that I've taken the shadow out of. I also reduced the file size on it a little bit, so that's going to be 1.8 megabytes. And I'll show you later how easy it is to swap out the different pictures. So we're going to go ahead and open our Blender file, and we haven't done anything yet. I think I'll just go ahead and leave this in place here, because we're going to just leave that in the scene, like what you just saw. And then we're going to put a UV sphere in place. So we'll create a UV sphere, and this is what we will wrap our object around. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I probably should go ahead and show you what my keys are. There we go. And let's see, we'll hit the 1 key to look at it from the side, A to select all. Let's go ahead and select that vertex, and that vertex. Shift select that, and they're both selected. X, enter, and we should have a hole through the middle because we don't want that single point there. And then we're going to Alt, let's go to Edge Select mode and Alt Select. And we're going to unwrap this. We'll go to UVs and Mark Seam. Make sure it's what we expect and it looks good. So I'm going to unwrap it. Before I do that, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Drag that up. I want to drag it this way. There we go. And let's pull up the UV editor, image editor. And I'm going to unwrap this. I'm going to hit A to select everything. I don't know if it matters. I don't think it matters which you're selected on. With everything selected, I'm going to hit the U key and unwrap as a spherical projection. And it's not going to work at all like this. So we need to come over to these tools and change to Align to Object. And that's getting much closer to what we want. And we want to check Scale to Bounds. Now that's how we want it. That's how we're going to map it to the image. And at this point, we could open the image in the editor here, but it's not necessary to do that. First, we're going to create a material. Let's go to Object Mode. Tab into Object Mode and put a material on this bad boy. So all we're going to do is just make a material. We can leave it named the default name, and we're going to make it shadeless. There. And then we're going to come to the textures and assign this thing a texture, the image that we looked at. So we're going to hit New, and it's already on Image or Movie. And we'll come down here and open my Sphere 1 picture. And we're going to come over here and look at the material. And it's already on our sphere. Now what we need to do now is, if we looked at it if we exported it this way, you would see the image on the outer surface of this sphere, but not the inner surface. And we're going to be looking at it from the inside later on. So we need to flip the normals. We're going to do that in Edit Mode. Tab into Edit Mode, and I'm going to select all the faces on here, and I'm going to hit the W key, which brings up the Specials menu, and I'm going to hit Flip Normals. That's it. You don't really see anything happen, but something did happen. Now the outside of the sphere is going to be invisible, and the inside will be visible. And while we're here in Edit Mode, I'm going to make some changes to the shape of our sphere. What I want to do is flatten it out a little bit to sort of reflect the actual shape of the environment I was in. There's a limit to how much you can do that, but at least we can flatten the ground out because we were standing on a flat ground, and so that will help in the 3D perspective effect that you get. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the 1 key, and I'm going to go into Vertex Select, hit A. Now what I'm going to do from here is flatten out the ground. So I'll hit B for box, and I'm going to select all these and scale on the Z axis. Whoops, I need to select that right there so I get them all. B for box. You know, I don't think I'm in perspective mode. There we go. That's perspective. Hit the 5 key to get perspective mode. And let's make sure I'm, yeah, see, I'm not selected on what I want to be selected on. So let's try that again. Okay, let's select the bottom half of our sphere. Let's hit B. And that's all selected how we want it to be selected. And we're going to scale that on the Z axis, SZ. So we'll scale that down so it's pretty flat, and then we'll go ahead and move it back up where it kind of belongs there. Now when you're viewing this from the perspective of being inside, the tree line is going to be perpendicular to your angle of view. So we'll leave that sort of vertical as it is. And this can be adjusted. You might find yourself in different environments that would warrant changing the shape of this to fit your environment. Like for example, if you were in a square room, I bet you could make some changes to this to make it roughly square, and it would really fit your perspective nicely if you were in a cubicle room. So let's go ahead and export this and see how we're doing so far. I'm just going to tab into object mode. And before we export it, let me show you what's going to, there are some problems that will occur that we can fix, but let me show you what the problems are before we fix them. That have to do with the camera distance. So let's go ahead and export into HTML, and it's going to be this HTML file right here. So let's open it up and see how we're doing. Okay, so right now we're doing very good, except for our world. Our little sphere is too small. Our cube is there where we left it, and our world is like a little drop of water where it should be very large. Let's go ahead and fix that. And I want to show you one thing too. When you get too far away, you see how it disappears? That's clipping. So it's designed to stop rendering anything that is too far from the camera. So we'll fix that while we're at it too. So there's our little droplet of water, and I'm gonna scale this in edit mode. If you can scale it in object mode. If you do scale in object mode, you should go to apply, scale, and rotation. But I've been scaling it in edit mode, and it seems to work pretty good. So we'll tab into edit mode, and we're going to make sure we're selected on everything. And we're just going to scale that bad boy up to a nice dome like that. And let's move it up just a little bit so we're kind of standing on the ground. Oh, and I didn't close my circles, did I? So we need to do that too. While we're here. What I'm going to do is close the sky circle up there. And I'm going to scale that down and just hit 0, enter, and that one's done. And let's see if I can select that one with, boy, I don't know. Select that or not. Let's try a ring select. Let's try this. Let's go to edge select, and we're going to alt. Got it. Okay, that should work. So I'm going to hit 7 to the top and then 9 key to flip around to the bottom, and scale that down, 0, enter. And this will distort the ground there a little bit. You can, if I messed with this next ring, I could minimize it a little bit, but if it bothers you, you can always hide it with something else. In one of my projects, I'm actually covering it with a map. And so, all right, let's see what that looks like. Let's tab into edit mode. And by the way, something you can do when you're working with something this huge, sometimes you need to get inside your scene, and so you can come up to here where your sphere is and just go ahead and hide that. It'll still render, but now I can see the rest of the objects in my scene. So let's go ahead and export into our HTML and pull that up and refresh. Oh, we forgot to adjust the camera clipping and stuff, but we'll get that. Okay, so here we are in the scene. There's our cube, and if you can see where my shadow is, you could, there's the light, you could mess around with the light source in Blender and make your objects match if you wanted to. So one thing that is going to happen is when that back surface gets too far from the camera, it's going to stop rendering. And also our camera can get too far away too. So we need to adjust both of those. So let's come into Blender. We're going to select the camera. We want to make sure we're on Blend4Web because otherwise you won't see this menu. We're going to come to the camera panel and we're going to change, this is the clipping. So right now at 100 units distance from the camera, it's going to stop rendering it. So we'll change that to 200. And then we're going to use camera limits. So distance limits, we're going to change that to 50 because that gives us a fairly good range without falling outside of our photosphere. And we don't need to do any horizontal clamping. This could restrict the angle of view up or down or left to right. Use panning mode. That allows you to scoot the camera right to left with right clicking. I can show you what that is. Let's go ahead and export that. Pull it up and refresh. Okay, here we are. I'm going to zoom out as far as I can, and there's my limit. So I can't get outside. Now I'm going to right click. This is what panning is. I'm going to right click and drag and see I can pan sideways. And that might not be desirable. So we can fix that by unchecking the panning mode. Export and refresh. And here we are in no panning mode. That's good. So now you can just spin about the target of your camera. And by the way, you set that target location right in here somewhere. Yeah, right here. So you can hit this to copy the cursor, or you could enter the target in manually. We'll just leave it how it is for now. Now I want to show you you don't have to do this whole process every time you want to make a photo. So let's say you've done all this and you say, okay, well this is my great spherical photo and I've got other photos I want to do too. So once you've got this Blender file done, putting a new photo in is very simple. So all I have to do is select my sphere, come to the material, and we're going to open a new picture. And I'm going to put the no shadow one in, where I photoshopped the shadow out of it, where I was standing there. And we're going to hit open image, file, export. And so there's my shadow right behind the cube. And I'm going to refresh it. There, shadow gone. So I just changed the image, as simple as that. So you don't have to build the sphere like I just did every single time. In fact, you can download this blend file from my website. I will zip this up so you can get this example to work with. In the zip file, I will put this project as well as the images so you can see their dimensions. If you end up with some images with different dimensions, you might have to go through the process of creating your own sphere to attach it to. So I hope that gives you some insight into this new technology. I guess it's not that new, but it's new being able to get your own sphere so easily. Just walk out with a smartphone and get your photosphere, and then using Blender, get it right on your website. I mean, you could literally do this in, you could go from having nothing to having this on your website an hour later. That's really how quick you could do this. It's not hard. And you can put text in here, you can put labels. And one thing I like about this option is because you can shape it to the environment, it gives you the option of creating sort of that 3D perspective effect. If you look sort of down at the ground, you can you can see it doesn't look like a flat image at all. It looks like I'm sort of in an environment. And one thing this might not work so well on is if, when I took this picture, if there was something in the near plane, like a tree right next to me, it wouldn't work so well to have it flattened out like this. The reason being is that tree would then be stretched out along the far clip plane there. And that would probably look kind of funny. In that case, what you would probably want to do is just stick with a perfectly round sphere, and there is a camera option that would work for that. It would leave you sort of as an eyeball effect looking around like this. I can show you that setting in the camera menu. Let's see, so that's target mode. So if we go to eye mode, it's going to just put you in the center of it and you're just looking around. So let's see what that looks like. We'll come here and refresh. Okay, so now there's no zooming in and out. There's only looking around. So if you had a picture that had a lot of details in the near plane, like you're standing next to trees or buildings or such, then this would be an option that would work for you because it wouldn't really matter. Everything appears sort of two-dimensionally. You can see even my cube there doesn't really, you can't really see it move against the background. So it still looks like there's a cube there, but you don't get that 3D effect that you do get with the other camera mode. So that is one option, though, that if there were trees standing next to me when I took this picture, I would have probably used this method. And it wouldn't have been necessary to flatten out my my sphere like I did. Let's go ahead and look at that. So in the eyeball mode, having it flattened out like this would be redundant. It wouldn't do anything for you. Here's a scene I've been working on that is going to have a site location map to indicate your position on the site. And here I've stretched it across 3 1080p screens to give you an idea of the scalability. And it's interesting to see how well this scales with no glitches at all. This is done on a GTX 980 NVIDIA card, if you're curious about that.